Friends, I extend you all of you very warm welcome to this evening's address by Dr. Ali Khwaja. This talk is organized in memory of Justice R. Venkatramaya. At the outset, on behalf of you, on behalf of the Institute, I express my sincere gratitude to the daughter of R. Venkatramaya, Srimati Rukmini Nagaraj Rao, for being kind enough to keep an endowment in this institution to perpetuate the memory and the legacy left behind by her father, Justice R. Venkatramaya. Before I introduce the speaker of the day, I would like to mention a few words about Justice R. Venkatramaya, who happens to be very closely associated with our former Honorary Secretary, Justice Nittur Srinivasa Rao, who happens to be not only our Secretary but also a contemporary of the founder of this institution, Dr. D.V. Gundappa, for more than 30 years. Sri R. Venkatramaya, born in the village of Hassan, after his formal education at Hassan, got his degree from the Maharaja's College, Mysore, and later on his postgraduate degree from Elphinstone College, Bombay, wherein he also obtained a law graduation degree. After practicing for a while as an advocate, he was appointed as a district judge, then became a sessions judge, then a judge of the High Court, and the first Chief Justice of the Karnataka High Court. He was very closely associated, as I told you, with this institution, especially with Justice Nittur Srinivasa Rao. He was also very much interested in the study of English and Sanskrit literature and also in Vedantic studies. He was a frequent visitor of Bengaluru Gayan Samaj, which is known to even today to organize one of the best cultural classical music events. With these few words, I once again thank Srimati Rukmini Nagaraj Rao for giving this opportunity for all of us to hear one or the other interesting, helpful, guiding talks every year. Thank you, Madam. We have amidst us today Dr. Ali Khwaja, the chairman of Banjara Academy, Bengaluru. He is very much known to this place, especially those who frequently visit Indian Institute of World Culture. A very accomplished person, a graduation from the IIT, MIE, and a PhD in behavioral sciences. He is officially on the boards of many universities, visiting faculty and advisor to defense and central government and some of the most prestigious national institutions. A true Banjara, he has no profession, yet runs a very practical and experiential part-time diploma in counseling skills. He motivates and keeps together 200 volunteers working in 10 major hospitals. He is deeply involved in causes as wide as adoption, disability welfare, true education, life skills, and counseling. He has been presenting papers in national workshops, has written over 30 books on human behavior, life, children, and counseling, and still writes regular columns in reputed publications like Deccan Herald and etc. Notwithstanding all this, one that makes him very popular today, he loves all human beings alike. A very exceptional quality, a rare quality, and a very important quality to be called a human being. His prime focus is on the improvement of quality of life. He believes in a mission of helping others to help themselves and tries to make himself available to anyone who seeks emotional support or counseling. Friends, after this talk, there is a handout on combating loneliness which is available for rupees 10. Only few copies are available. Those who are interested, they can avail this opportunity. After his talk, there will be a question or an interactive session for about 10 minutes. One or two words about the subject of this today, loneliness. Loneliness has both pleasant and unpleasant phases. From a practical approach, Dr. Ali Khwaja will be delivering his lecture. I extend a very warm welcome once again to Dr. Ali Khwaja on behalf of the members of Justice R. Venkatramaya, on all of your behalf and on behalf of this institute. Kindly deliver your address, sir. Dr. Ali Khwaja.
Good evening. I spent my formative years in Mumbai, which was at that time known as Bombay. And right now I got a thrill when I heard that Justice Venkatramaya, whose endowment has made this meeting possible, was also from Elphinstone College, because that's where I also studied. Sometimes one gets such touched. Of course, he must have been there probably years before I went to the college. But you see how that little pang of connection, the late Justice is no more. And of course, I never met him in college because he must have passed out much before me. But just knowing that, yes, he was from my college, automatically makes you feel as though you've met a long-lost friend. You know, that is what human nature is all about. I remember in my very young days, I think I was a student at that time, my one celebrity, if you may be knowing him, he is still there, but he has become very old now, was a Hindi film actor called Dilip Kumar. Dilip Kumar's actual name was Yusuf Khan. Now, Dilip Kumar happened to be, incidentally, a very good friend of my father. One occasion, there was a party in a 5-star hotel and a huge banquet hall, and there were all these people floating around. Every second person was a celebrity or a VVIP, etc. For some reason, my father wanted to speak to him, and he looked around the hall and he just couldn't locate him. So he told me, go and look for uncle. Where is he? I want to talk to him. I started looking around all over the place and I couldn't find him. Then I realized there was a door and there was a balcony there. There was no light on the balcony. It was dark. But I could make out his back. He was standing there leaning over the balcony and alone in the darkness. I went from behind and I saw him just leaning over the balcony, standing alone in that semi-darkness. And I looked down and I saw it was a parking lot. The cars were there. So I thought maybe he's calling out to his driver or something of that sort. So I went up and I asked him in Hindi, Uncle, aap kisi ko dhoond rahe hain? Are you looking for somebody? Meaning to say, do you want me to get your driver or something? I'll never forget his face when he turned around to me and he said, हाँ बेटा, मैं यूसुफ को ढूंढ रहा हूं. आई एम लुकिंग फॉर यूसुफ. Because when a person becomes a celebrity, his own identity is lost. There is this great Dilip Kumar, which, millions of people would be wanting to even catch a glimpse of him or get a autograph or whatever it is. But there is this real me, the Yusuf, who seems to be lost. And he said, then he explained to me. He just stood there and he spoke to me for 5 minutes and he said, "Beta, sometimes it can be so lonely when Yusuf gets lost in Dilip Kumar. I wish Yusuf was still around. I wish I could just walk down from here and go and have a cup of tea in the Darshini there or something of that sort, but I can't do it. And that is how I have lost Yusuf." Why I mentioned this was to emphasize upon the fact, which of course most of us know, that there is a lot of difference between aloneness and loneliness. You can be alone and not lonely. You can be very lonely without being alone. In fact, of late in the Western countries, they have coined a word called living together loneliness, LTL. It started with a very famous author called Dan Kiley, who wrote a book called Living Together, Feeling Alone. In that he described, he said, let's say my whole family is in Bombay and I've lived all my life over there. I get transferred here for my job or something of that sort, so I come here alone. Okay, the employers have given me a bungalow to stay, I have got a car, I've got a driver, I've got an office, I've got everything. But I'm new to this place. None of my family members are here with me because I couldn't leave. My children couldn't leave school and come, so my wife couldn't come. I don't have relatives, it's a new place, I don't speak the local language. And I'm living alone in this palatial bungalow. So even if I don't tell anybody, people will say, "Oh, Ali must be a lonely person because, he is poor man, he has been transferred here and he is living alone over here." Whereas, visualize a situation where I was born and brought up in Bangalore, near about Bull Temple Road. I have got 10 houses of my relatives surrounding me within walking distance. In my own house, there is a joint family of 14 people living there. I studied in this school and that college, and now I am working in this office. And if I were to tell somebody I feel lonely, people will laugh at me. How can you feel lonely? And that is why they say LTL is worse. Because you can't even complain to the world that you are lonely. When you have human beings around you, but you cannot connect to them. Long back we started off with coining this word called generation gap. We started saying that there's a generation gap between the older people and the younger people, that is the parents and the children. The children think differently, behave differently, their likes and dislikes are different, etc. So there is a generation gap. That is why many a time it is difficult for children to get along with parents or parents to get along with children, etc. But now that generation gap has come down to, just to give you an example, I have 2 children who are less than 5 years age difference, 4.5 years age difference between them. And I can see a distinct generation gap between the two of them. The other day my younger one was telling me, "Daddy, get me a separate music system." I said, "Why? We have a very good music system, both of you can listen." She said, No, Asma, that's her elder sister. Asma only likes to listen to those old 90s songs. Old 90s songs. So here you are. At this rate, the same way as we say, changes are coming in very fast, technology is changing very fast, and all that. Lifestyles are also changing very fast. Technology we can understand. Many of us can adapt and pick up technology. Some of us give up and say, "No, I don't want to. Okay, I'm too old to learn computers, so I will not do it. Even if I have to send an email, I'll ask my son or grandson to send it on my behalf. I can survive without learning new technology." But lifestyle, can I get away from lifestyle? One of my uncles who migrated to America and settled down there, when he had come once visiting, his son had become a teenager. And somebody was asking, knowing that in America and all that, the relationship with children is not the same as over here. So they were asking, how's your relationship with your son? He said, oh, it's wonderful, wonderful. It is a relationship which is called hi dad, bye dad. When he's coming out of his room, he sees me and he says, hi dad. When he's going out of the house, he says, bye dad. And in the night, it is a reverse. He comes from outside, says, hi dad. Before he enters into his room, he says, bye dad. And I said, a wonderful relationship we have got. He adapted to it 20, 30 years back. Now we are being forced to adapt to it. Basically, why I am even talking about this topic today is because of the fact that while technology is improving at such a fast pace that we say that we have entered last 2-3 decades back, we have entered into the era of information technology. You remember we had the caveman's era, then we had the agricultural age, and we had the industrial age, and then we moved into the IT age. So in the last 1 or 2 decades, we have been saying that the whole world has moved into what we call as the IT age, information technology. Very recently, in the last year or so, I have started hearing the new word that is, instead of IT, we call it ICT, Information and Communication Age. So now we have entered into an information and communication age. Imagine an era, an age where information and communication are the dominant factors. They are the highest employers. They are the ones who are taking forward the society and the progress and all that sort of thing. And practically also it. Most of you will recollect those good old days when we did not have mobile phones and things like that. Even a middle class household often did not have even that one landline. You had to be an upper middle class person, or your employer or the government gave you a phone. Very few private people had phones. In fact, I remember in a particular lane, if one family had a landline, they were the most popular in the whole locality, because people could use their phone to make calls. And the same thing in offices. Unless you are at a managerial level or something, you are not allowed to use the office phone for private purposes. So what did that mean? The bread earner, the head of the family, if he used to leave the house in the morning, till he came back and physically presented himself in the house, nobody knew where he is, how he is, etc. So you had to wait. When he would come and knock on the door, then you would say, okay, Appa has come back safe and sound, he is back with us. Today what happens, a most ordinary person, let's say a coolie or technician or whatever it is, who doesn't even have a motorcycle, let's say he has a bicycle, he leaves his house and he goes, he has his mobile phone in his pocket. By the time he leaves and goes to the next crossroad, his mobile phone is ringing. He takes out the mobile phone, it is his wife calling. Now, is the wife calling to say, my darling, I'm missing you, it has been 3 minutes since you left home, come back soon, I love you very much? Unless they've been just married, of course, then it can possible. But otherwise, she is probably calling him up to say, don't forget to pay the electricity bill. That is what you did 6 months back, once you remember, and the electricity was cut off and you get busy with your work. So first go and pay the electricity bill and then go to your work. So what does this man think? That even after he has left his house and he has gone 1 kilometer, it is like he has got a dog collar and a chain attached to his wife. He is still going and she is still holding it back. With the result that so often I see either a friend or somebody who has come to me for some work or counseling or whatever it is sitting across the table with me. Suddenly his mobile phone rings and he looks at the mobile phone like this. I'll call you back. And I look at him and say, was it your wife? He says, how do you know? Your expression told me. And you know what he does? Okay, wife has called up, he was busy, so he said, I'll call you back. No courtesies, not even that, I am with somebody, is it something urgent, or hi, how are you? Nothing. I'll call you back. That's it. And then once he leaves from my place, he starts getting uneasy. She had called up. If I don't call back, then she's going to get angry. So I must call back to her. So he goes out of my office and he dials his wife's number. And she looks at it. I'll call you back. She is busy with something else by that time. Now this is the outcome of easy communication. We have lost that thing of, what we call as delayed gratification. Looking forward to something. In fact, I tell people that one of the greatest changes in lifestyle, I think, came, the landmark of it, which nobody gives credence to, was when instant coffee was invented. Before that, you all remember what a ritual it used to be to have the filter coffee. We used to get the coffee seeds, we used to get them ground, we used to keep them fresh. We used to, put only that much filter so that it should not be wasted, and yet we should take care of this. If somebody suddenly walked up and said, I want coffee, sorry, the filter has to take place. You have to wait till it is there. Then only you get the coffee. A simple thing like coffee was something which we had to work towards or wait. That delayed gratification, as they say in behavioral sciences. The more you delay, the greater was the pleasure of that coffee. Oh, coffee is ready now, filter is ready. Now you're going to make hot coffee and give it to me or something of that sort. The moment instant coffee came, that was the end of that era. Then, of course, the Maggi 2-minute noodles came. And one by one, the whole series has followed. Till now we have come to instant relationships. So very soon they will say, buy this packet and pour it into this and drink, and you will fall in love and you can get married and you can do this and that. And at the same time, I don't know how many of you are aware, in the year 2000, our family court in Bangalore city, I am told, granted something like 500 divorces in the whole year. Today, we have 7 family courts. Within 10 years, we have gone from 1 to 7 family courts, and each one of them, I am told, gets anywhere between 20 to 40 applications for divorce per working day. What are the implications of this? Yes, even now, the rate of divorce, even in a modern city like Bangalore, is far lower than it is in, let's say, America or London and all that. So we can be complacent and say, no, look at those Western people. They don't give value to relationships and all that. There, divorce rate is 50%, 60% and this and that. Here it is hardly 5% or something of the sort. We can be very happy. But I am one person who always likes to look forward and see where we are headed rather than where we are now. Isn't that the most important thing? So if this much change has taken place in the last 10 years, what will happen in the next 10 years? Because all these things, the graph goes elliptically like that. It starts slowly going, we don't even realize it, but once it starts turning, it zooms. And that is when we get scared. There is the counterpart of it also. Thanks to God, thanks to nature, whatever it is. Whenever a calamity takes place, whenever something goes wrong and we think that there's going to be a tragedy or something is going to go wrong, etc., nature has its own way of, covering it back. For example, this is something very interesting. As I said, the rate of divorce in a city like Bangalore is going up at a very rapid pace. The rate of divorce in America per million population or whatever it is, since the last 2 years has started coming down. I was very happy. I said, these Americans, are now valuing their relationships and their marriage more, etc. Till I started communicating with behavioral scientists there, and I came to know that the rate of divorce is coming down because the rate of marriage is coming down. People are not getting married at all. I like you, you like me, we live together. We don't like each other, we walk out. So where is the question of divorce? Now these are the type of things that we need to look into. For example, commitment to a relationship. Whether for good or bad, there was a time when we felt that a relationship is a lifetime's commitment. If I get married, even if I don't like my wife, even if we are not very happy, even if we fight, it is my karma, it is whatever it is, but I'm going to live like that. That commitment was there. And even though I may not be leading a very good quality of life because I don't get along with my wife, there was a sense of complacency, there was a sense of security. My children would grow up with that sense of security that, yes, Amma and Appa keep fighting all the time, but they're not going to leave each other and go anywhere. They are going to be around, and we are going to grow up in a secure house where everything will be taken care of. You will be amazed, ladies and gentlemen, how many children today in our modern schools and all that, where I work with, sad to say, feel extremely insecure because they don't know when their father and mother are going to separate. Forget about what's happening at the adult level, why they are fighting, why they are wanting to separate, all that is secondary. But an entire generation is growing up not having that security of knowing that Amma and Appa will always be there for me. No. There is this threat, there is this fear that no, they may separate out. The family may break up. Appa may no longer be with us, Amma may no longer be with us. What sort of a generation are we producing? Imagine their sense of insecurity. Added to that, and since we are talking about loneliness, just do one very simple mental exercise. Think of 3-4 senior citizens whom you know, among your own family, relatives and all that, people who are above 60, 65 years of age, senior citizens. And just mentally count how many brothers and sisters they are. Like if I think of my father, he had, of course, 2 of them have passed away, my father's also passed away, but they were together, 3 brothers and 4 sisters. So there were 7 of them in one family who grew up to their parents. So like that you will get a number. Just mentally think of the number. Think of 3 or 4 such people. It could be your own brother, sister, father, uncle, neighbor, anybody. Just think of 3 or 4 senior citizens and mentally tick off how many siblings they are. How many are they totally brothers and sisters. What is the type of numbers that come to your mind? Give me a
7 to 14.
7 to 14. Any other?
30 members. Olden time.
Yes? 20 to 30. 7, 14, 20, 4, 9, 12, 7, 6. So as you go on thinking, these are the type of numbers that will keep coming to your mind. Okay. Now, I want you to think of 3 or 4 young couples whom you know, who have already been married for about 5-10 years. So they have completed their family. Whatever children they wanted to have, they have already got. Let's say they are married for about 8, 10, 12 years, not beyond that. Those who are in their late 30s or, touching 40 or something. So think of 3-4 couples like that in your society. Your neighbors, your relatives, your nephew, niece, whoever it may be. And count how many children do they have.
But they have outsourcing families, cook, drive.
Yes, that I am coming to. In fact. So it is 0 or 1 or 2. You will be surprised if you can think of one young couple in your society who have got 3. 4, of course, is out of question. I have a friend, whenever somebody asks him, how many children have you got? He says, 1 son and twins. You know why? Because if he says 3, people say, what's wrong with you? He had 1 son, they went in for a second child, they got twins. So he never uses the number 3, he always says 1 son and twins. Meaning to say, second time when we went for a child, there were 2. So that is why it is 3, Don't blame me, sorry, I am not responsible for it. As though it's a sin to have 3 children. Take all this into account. And you will understand when I say that behavioral scientists have already cautioned us that the greatest epidemic that is going to hit mankind now in the 21st century is not the plague or not smallpox or not even AIDS and H1N1 and all that. All those we can somehow take care of that. The greatest epidemic that is going to hit mankind now is the epidemic of loneliness. And we are not even attempting to provide a vaccination or an inoculation. We are just going headlong into the thing where we are going to be hit by this, and we will not know how badly it has hit us. Start with senior citizens. I am told that in and around Bangalore now we have almost 400 old age homes. If you take the average of 20, 50, 100, 60, whatever the number of people staying in each old age home, and then multiply by 400. And this covers not just, 10 or 15 years back also we had old age homes in Bangalore, but they were what we used to call as destitute homes. If there was a very elderly person who didn't have children, or his children had abandoned him and run away, and he had nobody, he was retired, he didn't have pension or money, there were old age homes made for such people that, he's too old to work or to take care of himself or herself. So come on, as a charity, let us put him there. Today we have 5-star old age homes, where people are paying in tens of thousands of rupees per month to go and stay there with air-conditioned rooms and this and that and everything except family. That is the only thing that is missing. Otherwise, they are leading a better quality of life than they would have had at home, the type of facilities which are there. So this goes to show that even if you have the wealth, you have anything else, there's going to be more and more of this redundancy. That I can't fit into society, I'm 70, 80, 90 and I can't fit in, so I have to be put away separately into an old age home. Yes, my children are willing to pay. How much does it cost? 20,000 per month. I'll write out a check for full year, 2,40,000. Go stay happily over there. Let me know when the next installment has to be paid. And once in a while on Diwali, Dasara, I'll come with a box of sweets and I'll wish you and I'll go. If I can't do that, I'll definitely send you an email greeting you for the occasion. So you better learn how to open your email, okay? Otherwise, I can't write letters and send it to you. So that is one area which is very obvious. I'm sure most of you are aware that longevity is increasing at a very, very rapid pace. India's average longevity was somewhere between 20 to 30 years for centuries. We crossed 30 only around the end of 19th century. By the time of India's independence, we were around 45. And now we are touching 70. Now what is going to happen in the next few decades is that longevity will easily cross 90. So that is one thing. Second and more important, there were a few people, even among our grandparents' days and all that, who used to live up to 100 years and all that. They were a minority, but yes, they were there. But the difference was that those people were neither capable of nor expected to be a contributing member of society. It was acknowledged. We had a superannuation age. At that time, most people used to work in the organized sector, so you had a retirement age, which was 55, it was increased to 58 and now to 60. So you say, okay, once you have reached that age, you are no longer capable, nor are you expected to contribute. So you have your pension or gratuity or provident fund or whatever, or you have a house which you have rented out, you are getting rent. You take care and then you relax and sit at home. Today, with the way healthcare is improving, many of you may have attended yesterday's lecture on health care. Nothing is going to happen to you as long as you take care of your health. All the old age illnesses, one by one, are being taken care of. There was a time when somebody got arthritis, and then we used to say, okay, now he can't walk, he can't do anything. You remember our Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee had come to the stage where both his knees had given way, he couldn't walk. He took 3 weeks leave, went to Breach Candy Hospital in Mumbai, got both his knees replaced, came back and continued as the Prime Minister of the country. Dr. Manmohan Singh had a very severe heart condition, and they said, no, this may be the end of his working life and he may not be able to get back and things like that. He went ahead, got the surgery done, not only completed his term as Prime Minister, has got re-elected for another 5 years more. Cataract. You remember those days when cataract used to put off a person for months together. Today a person goes for a cataract operation in the morning and comes back home in the evening. 3 days later he's back in the office. So one by one, what is happening is that all these things which used to make a person dysfunctional bodily, they are being conquered. So when you are 90 years old, you may still be fit and fine and able to do anything, walk, talk, see, read, whatever you are expected to do, you may still be able to do it at 90, 95. There may not be any hampering. The irony of it is, more and more of these ailments are hitting younger and younger people. In my childhood, heart attack used to come only to very old tatas. It was an accepted thing. Today, please go to Fortis Walkhard Hospital or to Manipal or to any of these hospitals. Peep inside the ICCU, Intensive Cardiac Care Unit, where people are battling for life and death because of their heart condition. They are being monitored on a minute-to-minute basis and they are perhaps on ventilators and all that. If you see 20 beds there, don't be surprised to find at least 6 or 8 out of those 20 people are less than 40 years of age. Anything like that. Diabetes used to come in old age. Today we find very young people suffering from diabetes. So what is happening is that as you grow older, you are getting fitter. And in between you are coming up with more and more problems. So what does it mean? Here I am, let's say if I was 30, 35 years old and my father had retired or something and I say, no, I am living in a 2 BHK apartment in a city like Bangalore, I can't afford to keep you, I can't go into a bigger house and my children need their space and this and that, so I'm sorry, I can't keep you, but I don't mind since I'm earning well, I'll put you in an old age home or something of that sort, so I can send away my parents. But I am going to be facing that loneliness of knowing that tomorrow if I have a heart attack, what happens to me? Tomorrow I develop diabetes or blood pressure or this or that, what happens to me? All these fears are leading to what we are referring to as a midlife crisis. Younger and younger people are coming to a stage where they are getting absolutely burnt out mentally and wondering, where is my life headed? And that is the reason why you see that there are so many what we call as instant gurus coming up or instant spirituality being offered. Spirituality was the founding force of Indian society. We have people who, whose, wisdom and all that has been proven for centuries. But yet we are looking for newer and newer people. If somebody comes and says, read about Swami Vivekananda, everybody acknowledges him. No, there's no great fun in that. But if somebody says, here is this latest Swami, who goes to America and gives speeches there, and in London he had this thing and this and that, oh, I'm very thrilled, I want to go and listen to him. What is this? It is just escapism, because deep down inside the loneliness is creeping in on me. I'm not realizing it myself, but I am subjecting myself and opening myself to that loneliness where I am not able to connect. Work-wise, you remember the good old days when a person, when she used to qualify, used to look for a job in a stable and a respectable organization. If he doesn't get it, he would probably take up a small job for some time and still keep struggling, maybe for a government job or public sector job or in a big company or something. So it used to take him 1 year, 2 years. Finally, he would get it. Let's say 40 years back, somebody did his engineering and he got a job in BEL or HAL or something. The moment he got that job as an assistant engineer or whatever the lowest cadre in his expertise, he would be so happy that he would decide that, okay, now my career is made, I don't have to look back. He would probably place an order for a beautiful engraved, brass nameplate with his name and Hindustan Aeronautics Limited written on it in embossed letters and put it up on the house to say that I'm there. My designation will keep changing. I'll become manager, deputy manager, chief manager, all that, but that Hindustan Aeronautics Limited. Today, I don't think any youngster wants to invest in a nameplate with his company's name on it. Or probably by the time the plate is engraved and comes, he's already changed his job. Fine. Nothing wrong with it. If they are getting better jobs and if they are, moving ahead, I'm very happy that we are making progress, economy is going ahead and all that. But what we are forgetting is that we are losing that sense of identity. You meet a person, if you have been retired for 15 years and you meet somebody from your organization where you had worked, as I gave the example of Justice Venkatraman, at the moment I was told that he is from Elphinstone College, how I felt. The same way, even if you have not worked with him in the same department or this and that, if you have retired 15 years back from HAL and you meet somebody else who says, oh, I also worked, but I was in HAL Nashik unit. Oh, you're like a brother to me. That sort of feeling, even now. But here we have already entered into an era where the same people working in the same organization do not have any feeling of connectedness. In fact, if you ask them, hey, you got such nice people of your age, your background, why don't you make friends? No, yaar, it's better not to make friends in people in the company, because you don't know who is a spy of the boss and who is doing what and all that. And in the meanwhile, I'm also sending my CV and biodata to some other company if this fellow comes to know. So I'd rather not make friends. And here you are, you go every day. And as you know, we have entered into that era where they call, you have to work 24/7. So you don't work 9 o'clock to 5 o'clock. You go at 9 o'clock in the morning and you come back at 9 o'clock in the night or 2 o'clock in the night, or you don't come back home at all. And in that sort of an environment, you don't connect to the people with whom you are spending 10 hours or 16 hours a day. And then you come back. Who is there at home? How many young people today have the privilege of living in a joint family with their parents, uncles, aunts, cousins and all that? No. Most of them are what we refer to as nuclear families. So when they come back home, who is there to talk to? Once upon a time, a man would come back home and tell his wife, my boss shouted at me today and that is happening and I'm very stressed out and this and that. And she would say, okay, fine, I'll make you a cup of coffee and this and that. Today, if he starts off talking about it, she will say, what are you talking about your boss? Let me tell you how my boss behaves, then you will understand what is happening. And by the time they are saying that, the children are coming and saying, Daddy, let me tell you what teacher did to me. You shut up what your teacher did. I want to tell what my boss did. It's like that youngster who told me the other day that, I'd come to Bangalore alone for a job. I was never in Bangalore. I got a job in Bangalore, so I came over here and I settled down. And I was doing very well financially, job-wise, everything. But I was very lonely because I was new to the city. I didn't have relatives, hardly any friends and all that. Then I met a girl who was a wonderful young girl and very empathetic and very understanding. And, she became my best friend. And I got into this habit that every day after office, I would either meet up with her and, pour out everything that's happening in my life. Or even if I don't meet, I would make a phone call and talk to her and tell her everything. So she used to go on listening to me so well. It used to be such a relief. Whatever stress I was facing, I used to get that relief. So much so that as it went on, I fell in love with her. I proposed to her. She agreed. And we decided to get married. On the day of the marriage, it was the priest who was doing the talking and both of us were quiet and listening. But the day after the marriage, she started talking and I had to do the listening. Now we are married for 5 years. Both of us do the talking and the neighbors do the listening. Now this may be a joke, but the fact remains is that is what is happening. Do we really understand what is communication? Can we really? I know of, I get people for counseling. They say, I'm having problem with my marriage and this is happening, that is happening. So I tell, let's say the wife or the husband, whoever is there, and is saying this is what my partner is doing or my spouse is not behaving well. Did you convey to your spouse that this is the thing? Yes, 3 times I've sent him an SMS. I've written a long email to her and told her everything. Hare Baba, your husband and wife, you're supposed to be living in the same house and sleeping on the same bed. And why do you have to send each other SMSs and emails? Because we are not ready to face the reality. We are running away from our close relationships. So on the one side, this is what is happening with our close relationships. And on the other side, I wanted to tell you, how many of you are aware that China, as you know, is the number one in population in the whole world. So the biggest community that we have in the whole world is China. Very close to China and going up at a very rapid pace, the second highest community in the world is Indians. Is anyone aware of the third largest community, which is growing at such a rapid pace that it may even overtake the population of India? It has already crossed about, I think, 50% of the population of India. It's more than 55 crores, I am told now. Would somebody like to make a guess? No. Not Brazil, not Bangladesh, not South Korea. Yes, it is the Facebook. The number of subscribers to Facebook is 55 crores. In fact, recently Facebook brought in a limit. You know what happens in Facebook? I don't know how many of you are actually onto Facebook. You have what are known as friends. So somebody sends you a proposal. If you have your page on Facebook, somebody sends a proposal saying, I want to be your friend. The choice is yours. You can say yes or no. If you say no, that person gets cut off, so that person is not in your circuit. If you say yes, he can access your Facebook page at any time. He can see your photographs, he can see your writings, he can see whatever it is. So he becomes part of your social group on the net. Facebook recently said that people are taking in so many friends that it's getting unwieldy for us. So we want to put a limit. If you have a Facebook account now, you cannot have unlimited number of friends. They have put a cap, a ceiling on the number of friends that you can have. The ceiling that they have brought in is 25,000. You can't have more than 25,000 friends. What a sad state of affairs, no? How can you survive with only 25,000 friends? And the same person, you ask him, what is the full name of your next door neighbor or where does he work? He doesn't know. You said that, you have an old uncle living in your native town and something. Tell me about him. I just know that he is an uncle and something. I think he retired from some, I don't know, and that's it. I don't know anything about the people who are important to us. Now, at the face of it, as I said, it may sound that it's okay, so what? Yes, we are hitting loneliness, we have to do something about it. It's not that easy. Because like I said, when something acquires that epidemic proportions, it's very difficult to hold back. It just starts, like a roller coaster, it's like a tsunami. Initially, you may just see a wave rising, but then when it starts rising, then you can't stop it by anything. A simple thing like behavioral scientists have always cautioned us that when you are lonely, you always make wrong relationships. When you are fulfilled by yourself, when you don't feel lonely, when you feel that yes, I have very good and loving and caring family, I have got extended family members or relatives, I've got my neighbors who are good to me, I've got my old childhood friends who still keep in touch, so I'm okay. Then I meet a person who looks very interesting. What happens is, I am in a position to evaluate and decide whether he is worth including into my friendship, my social circle, if I have to do business with him or whatever it is. But if I am craving for it, I am like a man who is hungry since yesterday I have not eaten anything. I walk into a restaurant, do I even look whether it is hygienic, whether this is better, whether this is more expensive? No, the first dish that I get, ain't ready, come on, give me, I want to eat immediately. That is what happens in relationships. So not only we find that when we are lonely, we make wrong relationships and that compounds our loneliness. Because 3 months later, I will be cursing, saying, I made friends with this person, he cheated me, he let me down, he was gossiping behind my back, or he did this, or he did that. Now that makes me more lonely, that makes me more frustrated, and because of that, I again start taking wrong decisions. So many areas of our life keep getting affected because of this factor of loneliness, which we don't even realize. That brings me to another very interesting question which people very often ask. Okay, why do I need to feel lonely at all? Supposing I am the type of person who doesn't want friends, who doesn't want relatives and all that. I have got my hobbies. I am an independent person. I like music or reading or this or that or whatever it is. I have got my own life. I am financially independent and I'm not dependent on anybody. So I don't want human interaction. The answer to that is very simple, that man is basically a social animal. We belong to the categories, which are social by our very nature. A very small percentage of us rise up to that level of self-actualization. If you've read about Maslow's pyramid of hierarchy of needs of human beings, as we keep going higher and higher, we reach that ultimate, which Maslow described as self-actualization, which spiritual people describe as moksha, where you have reached that sense of sublimation, where nothing matters. There is no difference between you and me. Money, assets, relationships, nothing matters. Now, if you can reach that level, then yes, then you don't need any human company or touch or anything of that sort. You can live on your own. But 99.9% of us in our lifetime never reach that stage. I will always be, even if I am not greatly in love with my wife, I may be very attached to my daughter. I may be very attached to my pet dog. I may have a lot of sentiment to my old childhood friend whom I am missing. So somewhere along the line, almost all of us, 99% of us, need human contact. Let me share with you a very gruesome incident that had happened. In the 13th century, Frederick II, who was the king of France, he had gone to war against Germany, and he lost a lot of his soldiers. And many of those soldiers, being young people, they left behind widows and tiny children. So he felt bad for them, and he told all the wives of the soldiers that if because you have a child or children and therefore you are sort of held back, I will take away your children. I will bring them up as the king. I will see that I'll give them a good future. I leave you free. You can go and get married to somebody else and start a fresh life. Many women agreed. King himself is willing to take care of our child. That gives me a chance to move on. So hundreds of women agreed, and they handed over their babies. He made a beautiful orphanage for these children. He started thinking, does this human touch, does love and affection, all these things, what is the role that they play in the upbringing of a human being or a child? So he said, let me do a simple experiment. He divided the orphanage into two separate buildings, half and half. In the first one, he told the caretakers, give the children whatever they need, and also laugh at them, smile at them, play with them, hug them, lift them up, kiss them, whatever. In the second orphanage, he said, give the children all their basic needs. Give them excellent food. If the child wets himself, change his nappy immediately and clean him. Take care of whatever it is. See that the heat and everything, the linen and bed sheet. See that he has a lot of toys to play with. Provide him with everything except human touch. Don't talk to the child. Don't smile at the child. Don't lift up and hug the child. If you have to feed him, just take a spoon, feed him, and go away. What he wanted to see was, when these children grow up, will these two grow up any different from each other? How important is this thing? This whole experiment failed because after 3 years in the second orphanage, there was not a single child who was left alive. They just withered away and died of natural causes. They would fall sick. They would give them medicine, they would give them nutrition, they would give them everything. But the child just wouldn't recover, he would die. Only because the child was not getting that human. That is what I want you to understand, the significance of having people around us, the relationships, what a great role they play. And if somewhere I am going to be hit with that epidemic of loneliness, and if I am going to lose out on that, I am going to be in very, very deep trouble. And at that time I can't do anything about it. It's like saying that, okay, when I become HIV positive or when I get AIDS, that time I will see what treatment to do. So far it has not hit me, no, other people are getting hit. But if it is taking up epidemic proportions, someday it may hit me in some form or the other. So I have to be careful. Okay, I am not indulging in, extramarital affairs or this or that, but when I go to the barber, I should be ready for this. If I am taking a blood transfusion, small things, I start taking precautions on that. The same way, we need to understand some of these aspects of mental health, because as I told you, physical health, even if something goes wrong, like you remember 10-15 years back, we had thought that anybody who becomes HIV positive, it is like a death sentence. Within a matter of few years, he is going to die. Today, there are people who became HIV positive 20 years back, and they are not only alive, they are functional. So we have already reached that stage where we have brought out certain medications and this and that, whereby even a person who gets HIV can live for 20-30 years after that. So you see how things are being taken care of. But the one thing that is not being taken care of is the human mind. And that is what I want all of you to be very, very aware of, that for that, no doctor, no psychiatrist, nobody can help us. It is we who have to work on these things. The other day I was at a conference in Nimhans. In the lunch break, I was with a group of neurologists and neurosurgeons, and they were talking about the advances in neurosurgery in the last 5 years. They said, even a very, very intricate brain tumor today by laser surgery can be set right. Otherwise, brain tumor means people used to just die within months. And now you see our neurosurgery has expanded so much, and we know so much, we can do wonders with the brain and all those sort of things. I just couldn't resist myself. And after hearing them for 10-15 minutes, I just said, doctor, the day you and your neurosciences can come out with a treatment for jealousy. If you say, we have devised a tablet for jealousy, I will salute you. 1 in 50,000 people suffers from brain tumor. But 1 in 3 people suffer from jealousy. That is the epidemic form of jealousy, and nobody even thinks that there is a need for a treatment or a vaccination or anything of that sort. We don't even teach life skills to our children. So the same way, if at least whatever else happens to us, if we know that we have got, these strong relationships, if we know that we are not alone in this world, if we feel that there is somebody for us, that is enough. We don't need to have our own, expertise or this or that. As long as I know how a child, as I told you, in a good family, how a child says, whatever happens to me, Amma and Appa will take care of it. Including the fact that if you have seen a small child, he falls down and he is hurt and he starts crying. He looks around and see, Amma has gone off there, she can't hear me crying, he stops. He keeps waiting. The moment Amma comes close, he'll start all over again. See the reliability on that factor, that if I cry, Amma will come and she will take care of my pain. That is the type of security, and that is the type of belonging that we have as a child. But what about as adults? As children, as I always keep saying, we are always blessed with the unconditional love of our parents, most of us. But once we come into the adult world, where is the unconditional love? All that we talk about, when we are newly married or when we are first in love, that I will love you forever and ever and for the next 7 janmas and this and that. And then 5 minutes later, I am asking, who was that boy you were talking to and why were you talking to him? And that's how it starts off. So knowing that, is there something that we can do? Yes, there is a lot that we can do. Not in terms of building up too many people around us or having bigger families or something, but connecting. As I said, you may be from your native place maybe 1,000 miles away. You may have some vague uncle, auntie, somebody who was nice to you in your childhood. Connect with them. Reach out to them. You may have a neighbor, you don't know who he is. Find out who he is and connect up with that person. You don't know which investment in human relationships will give you a return when. But investments you have to do. And if you do sufficient investments, something out of that will give you a return. Let me wind up with sharing with you an incident that happened long back. There was this middle-aged lady who used to come to me for counseling. She had a lot of problems at home, in-laws, children, all these type of things, financial difficulties. And she used to go on talking to me. In those days, I used to be counseling only on specific days of the week, on Tuesdays and Fridays. So anybody who wanted to talk to me knew that you have to get in touch with me on Tuesday between 4 to 7 or on Friday between 4 to 7. One Friday she came at about 6:30 and she was talking to me about what's happening and all that, and she was anticipating that some problem will take place in her family and she'll have to face it. So at 7 o'clock when she was leaving, she told me, "Sir, you have been extremely nice to me and you always helped me whenever I've needed help. But one problem is that you are available only on Tuesday and Friday. Now I go home. Tomorrow morning I have a crisis, emotional crisis. I need somebody to talk to. Whom do I talk to?" And those were the days before mobile phones and all that. So she said, "I have to wait till next Tuesday afternoon to come back and talk to you or to phone you up. What should I do?" I said, okay. By the time I had come to know her very well and she was quite a respectable lady. So I said, fine, you do one thing. These are my office numbers. These are my residence numbers. Keep both these telephone numbers. If there's an emergency and if you really feel that you need to talk to me instantly, call me up depending on what time of the day. You'll get me in the office or at home. She said, thank you, and she went away. Years went past. I had completely forgotten that incident. One day, I went for a workshop like this with people and I saw her sitting there. And I recognized and I smiled at her. She just smiled and nodded and looked away. So I said, okay, we respect the counselee's privacy. So I said, she didn't want to acknowledge me in public, it's fine. When the whole workshop was over, when she was going, she quietly came to my table, put one envelope here and went away. I gathered my papers, went home. And then that envelope came into my hand, I opened it. It was a thank you card. You know what you get in the shops with a nice decoration and some flowers and all that. And inside were the typical wordings that thank you, you have been very nice or something, that printed part of it. But on the left side, in her own handwriting, she had written, for the last 4.5 years, I am carrying the telephone numbers which you had given me. And they have been a great source of strength to me. Whenever I look at those telephone numbers, I feel I am not alone. By God's grace, I never had a situation which was so bad that I had to use those numbers to call you. But just having those numbers made me feel that yes, I am not alone in this thing. I had tears in my eyes, ladies and gentlemen. I said, what did I do to this lady? I just gave her my numbers. But you see the impact that it had on her for 5 years. This is the type of bonding that we can build towards each other. It can be with total strangers, like in this case. I won't even know who she is and what she is and things of that sort. It could be a next door neighbor. It could be, as I said, some old uncle, aunt, relative, or some old classmate from your school days, or anybody of that sort. But if we keep investing in people, we will be vaccinating ourselves against this epidemic of loneliness. And that is going to be a greatest asset in life. More than any other savings, this is one investment which is going to really, really do wonders for you. Please take this humble message from me, not because I claim to be some theologian or an expert or a very wise man or something, but because I deal with human behavior on a day-to-day basis. Whatever I talk only on the basis of what people have taught me, the experiences, because every day from morning to evening I'm dealing with people's emotions and people's relationships and all that. So that's why I get to learn free of cost from other people's problems. And that's where you can also learn from others. It can be done. Each one of us, regardless of your age, your background, anything, you can do it. Please make that little effort and reach out to people as much as you can. Thank you very much. Over to Mr. Ram.
Well, friends, those of you who have any questions, please come to the stage and let others also know how to get rid of it. One by one, it will be only for about 10 minutes. It is one sign, if nobody has a question, that everyone has understood what the learned speaker has said. Or don't hesitate. If you see the problem is to begin.
Yes.
One by one. 1 second. 11.
Hello, Mr. Khwaja. I am very much glad about enlightening your. See, my question is, what is the difference between stress-related loneliness?
Stress and loneliness are not directly connected to each other. Stress is an external factor in most cases, except those of us who have some sort of genetic depression or those sort of things. Most of the time, stress is a response to external stimuli. My boss has asked me to work very hard, or I have financial difficulties, or my mother is not well. So these external stimuli cause stress. If I am not lonely, my ability to handle stress is better. So when I know that I am facing financial difficulty, but if I know that if things get very bad, I can go to my dear friend and ask him, he will never say no to me. Or I have this relative of mine who I don't want to ask him, but if I go to him, he will not say no. Whether it's financial, whether it's anything of that sort. So if I get this feeling I am not lonely, I have, as I told you, that I have invested in people and people are there, my ability to handle stress, whether it is because of my health, whether it's because of finance, whether it's because of some specific relationship, my ability improves.
Thank you.
I'd like to tell from here on.
Sure?
Sir, I am reminded of a small story. It takes a minute. It seems there was a saint in Mandya. He was a bachelor and very sadhu, practicing all sorts of austerities. Many women used to come to him, and men also, sharing their woes, basically. And then, he was finding it difficult to relate to all this because he was not married, he didn't have children, he was not living in the society that these people were living in, even though he was located there. Then he prayed to Rama, it seems. Oh Rama, what shall I do? These people tell so many things. They can't express also, they don't have the language, they don't have the sensitivity to know what trouble they are in. How can I help them? So it seems Rama said, he gave some Rama Raksha Stotra, asked them to tell this Stotra. Because it's very difficult even for a counselor to know the person, his situation and all. So only God has to help us, I suppose. I don't know. Is my this one. I would like to know your comments.
Two parts to the issue. One is what I was telling you just now. The more I build relationships, the more I reach out to people, whether as a counselor or just as a friend, neighbor, relative, whatever it is, the more I take interest in people, the more I learn different situations in life. And therefore, the better is my capacity to learn something. Today, let's say my daughter is happily married and everything is fine. I meet somebody who comes and says that, my daughter is married but she's very unhappy. If I'm willing to invest my time and effort, I can't do anything for him or his daughter. I can't solve his problem for him. But just hearing him out as to what he is going through empowers me. Tomorrow, let us say my daughter comes to me and says, I am having differences with my husband. My ability to help her becomes better than before that. That is one thing. The other part of it, we want since he mentioned counseling, the basic thing in counseling we have to keep in mind is, I don't have to go through all the experiences. The sannyasi who is not married doesn't have to go and get married and then understand what the thing is. So whenever somebody comes to me and says this, like a lady comes and says, I'm having problems with my mother-in-law, how will you understand? You are a man. So I tell her, madam, if by chance, God forbid, somebody in your family has a serious heart condition and he needs bypass surgery or cardiothoracic surgery, do you go to the surgeon and ask him, have you ever had a heart attack? Have you ever had bypass surgery? If you have not experienced, then you will not know how to deal with my relative. In fact, if he says that I have had a heart attack 5 times, you will probably not go to that surgeon. You may fall that time only. So let's understand that it is basically what we deal with is not the situations of people, and never get so deeply involved as to try to become the savior. If I say, okay, I will help you, I will go and talk to your son-in-law and this and that, I may get myself into trouble. Nobody wants interference. All I am doing is understanding the person's emotions at that moment and to be able to deal with those emotions. That's it. Definitely it does. In fact, that's what I wanted to tell you that right at the beginning. Somehow it slipped my mind that if you are part of a place like this, you come here and you see like-minded people. You may not be friendly with most of them. 90% of them may be strangers. You may never even talk to them. But you see that familiar face and you know that I am not alone. That when something like this is taken up, when there is a cause, I look around the hall and I see that 200 people come over here. That means society is still a good place. There are nice people. I don't know who they are. But yes, we are surrounded by nice people. So tomorrow if I am facing a challenge where I am facing bad people or something of that sort, one evening I come and spend over here and I see that, okay, there are good people. So it counterbalances the thing. And this can be done, of course, Gokhale Institute is something which is very, very great, which is doing. But it can even be done by a simple thing like, 5 people in a locality getting together. I remember when I was in Yelahanka, New Town, and the place was just being set up. The municipality was putting those concrete benches. One retired gentleman asked them, at one place, please put 3 benches like this in a C shape. They said, no. He said, no, please, for my sake, only at one place I want. So he put those 3 benches and they went away. He brought a painter and painted on that pensioners' corner. And every evening he went there and he started sitting over there for 2 hours. Initially nothing happened. Then somebody would be passing by and they would say, oh, what is this? And they came. Somebody else came. It became such a lovely group. I don't know if it's still functional. I haven't been there for some time. But it became such a lovely group. And very like-minded senior citizens, no compulsion, no financial involvement, no commitments. You come there, you sit. There was enough place for about 9 or 10 people. Sometimes I would see 3-4 people standing because there's no place, and a lively conversation. You don't like the topic, walk off from there. So that is what is possible. Sir.
Thank you. Thank you for a lovely lecture this evening. My name is Chandrasekhar. There's something that's been another kind of epidemic which is taking place today, and that is suicides.
Yes.
And a large number of children are committing suicide. And this is because of sometimes the reason for suicide is absolutely silly. You don't pass an exam, you go and commit suicide. Your father scolds you, commit suicide. I think there is this kind of epidemic, and where children feel totally disconnected from their parents. And I think there is also this question of the parents expecting far too much from the children, much more than what the child can deliver. This came to us very, very, very close to us when my son's classmate committed suicide in our own neighborhood. And that is when we were hit with it first time.
Yes.
And then subsequently, of course, I've been keeping a tab on the kind of news reports. I think this is something that we need to educate, especially the younger parents, that, okay, you are a very successful, hotshot, executive. don't think that your child is of the same level as you are. Allow him to grow or her to grow.
That's right.
Your thoughts?
I'm absolutely in conjunction with you, except if you allow me to, disagree on a very minor point, and that is that please don't think that people commit suicide for silly reasons. The last thing that happened, that child failed in the exam or whatever, that girlfriend ran away or whatever it is looks like a silly, yes. That's what, in fact, I think both of us should emphasize this point to everyone present here. Never think that a person will commit suicide for a silly reason. Never think that it's a cowardly act or an impulsive act. That is the culmination. You know that proverb, the last straw on the camel's back. There was a story we used to read in childhood that there was this fellow who was carrying straw on his camel. So he kept on loading the straw on the camel, and he had this tons of straw. And he was about to go when he said that one straw is still remaining. Why should I not take that? He took that and put it on top, and the camel collapsed. And he said, how can one straw, bring down a huge camel like this? But that's why the proverb says, the last straw on the camel's back. He was ready to collapse. It needed that one straw. So that is what triggers this thing off. And yes, I agree that the suicide is the ultimate end of a person who feels absolutely lonely, isolated, unconnected. I don't belong in this world. The loneliness hits a person, whether it's a school-going child who has been ridiculed by his parents or teachers and made to feel that he is unworthy just because he doesn't get his 90% or whatever it is. So he starts evaluating that I will never make it to medicine or engineering or IAS or whatever my parents want me to do. And if I don't do that, I am not worthy enough to be my parents' child. I am not worthy enough to be in this society. So I may as well leave this world and go away. So starting from children, going up to senior citizens who feel that I have become unnecessarily a burden on my children. They don't love me. They don't care for me. So why burden them anymore? Let me quietly, commit suicide and get away from this world. But in all these cases, loneliness plays a tremendous role, and that is the extreme part of loneliness. One of the most beautiful and touching incidents of this was taught to me by a 11th standard girl. We had a case of 11th standard girl in one of the top schools here committing suicide, and they were called me in to speak to those girls. I had 2-3 sessions with them, and they were very vociferous, and they said, sir, why don't we sensitize the media, the police, and all these people, how they talk, because they were talking in very derogatory terms about that girl. Like Mr. Chandrasekhar said, that, it was silly, and just because she got low marks, what a silly girl, and they were talking like that. Even the police had given out those statements. So I said, fine. Our Mr. Ajay Kumar Singh was the commissioner at that time, and since I knew him personally, I requested him. He organized a seminar in the police commissioners, they have that auditorium there. And one of these girls, a dear friend of the girl who had committed suicide, she said, uncle, I want to speak first. She came onto the stage and she said, suicide does not mean the person wants to die. Suicide does not mean a person wants to die. It only means he is not able to live in this world. There was a stunned silence. All the media people, police people, they were taught a lesson by a 16-year-old that you people, you society, you are creating. I don't want to die. My friend didn't want to die. She was full of life at 16 years of age. But you made it a situation where she could not live, and that is why she chose that she had no other alternative. Please keep that in mind. Thank you, Mr. Chandrasekhar.
Well, friends, kindly stay on for a few minutes. Before I formally give a vote of thanks, I would like to once again announce that there is a small booklet costing ₹10, which is available outside, Combating Loneliness by Dr. Ali Khwaja. Those who are interested may kindly avail of this. Secondly, our next program is tomorrow at 5 p.m. an Astavadana by Shatavadani or Ganesh. Kindly make use of this opportunity. Lastly, friends, we have earned a very learned talk. I want to just say 2 words. One is the word of Dr. Alexis Carrel, who has said in his famous Nobel Prize book, Man the Unknown, that progress of mankind is inversely proportional to progress of machines. Number 2, the relationship between an individual and a collective is like the relationship between the bubble and the ocean. The bubble comes from the ocean, lives in the ocean, and merges in the ocean. The job of the counselor is to remind once again that this inseparable relationship between the bubble and the ocean. The counselor may be your own parents, your own brother, grandfather, grandmother, or Dr. Ali Khwaja. Thank you very much, sir. We look forward to one more enlightening talk on this. On behalf of this institute, on behalf of Justice R. Venkataramaya's family, I extend a very humble gratitude. Please accept.